Hello, I'm Donald Leggett, and welcome to the latest London South East CEO interview. I'm joined today by Bert Monro, CEO at Cora Gold. He's here to discuss the announcement of funding for the construction of the Sanankoro Gold Project in southern Mali. Welcome, Bert. This is a big moment in your life.
Yeah, massive moment, a great day for us. Thanks a lot for having me on the show.
Believe you me, it's our pleasure. You've just announced a term sheet for a whopping great $21 million of funding for Sanankoro, your flagship gold project. Tell us all.
Yeah, it's a fantastic day, as I just said. $21 million term sheet from Lionhead. Essentially, we delivered a scoping study in January of this year, which showed for $20.6 million, we could build a gold mine, which would make over $24 million a year of free cash flow at a $1,500 gold price. So Lionhead have approached us with a term sheet, which on delivery of a positive DFS by the end of next year, would fully finance that project.
And how tough is your DFS?
Well, we haven't got into it yet. We've obviously just completed the scoping study. The current focus is on drilling out more resources, and we'll be moving into the full DFS next year, but it needs to be done to JORC standard as our current resources and scoping study were.
Are you confident of being able to come up with the goods?
Yeah, absolutely. We've only drilled out a very small portion of our existing deposit. So we've drilled under 25% of the surface expression of our current mineralization. So we're very confident that we'll be able to extend from there. One of the beauties of Sanankoro is that it's predominantly an oxide deposit. I don't want to get into too many technicals today, but essentially it's a straightforward open pit mining operation as we currently see it. So building out the ounces and delivering a DFS on the back of that should hopefully be within our means.
It looks to me as though Lionhead have looked at the scoping study you did in January and come up with all the funds required. Is that a fair take on things? Is that a good summary?
In a simple word, yes. Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic achievement, I think. I think
it is.
The big issue for generally for the junior sector and the junior market is, there are lots of good-looking projects out there, but the biggest issue is how do you finance them? And often projects have 3 to 6 or sometimes more months delay after delivering a DFS to financing the project. And obviously, like we all have, we've all got an overhead and a cash burn requirement, and that delay obviously can hamper those companies. So for us to have this term sheet in our back pocket and this funding commitment is a fantastic achievement, especially when you're so far out from completing it, and obviously means we can really focus and deliver on it.
I do agree. So you've gone for a mix of equity, debt, and convertible loan. Give us the rationale behind that as your mix of funding.
Well, I guess fundamentally they gave us the term sheet, which we then negotiated. So I guess the basis was on what they gave to us. I think it's a good blend. I think you obviously want a mix of debt and equity. I think you can have too much debt, and these companies and these projects can be saddled with a little bit too much debt, which can take time to pay off. And if you ever have any unforeseen hiccup, it can be tricky. But equally, if you have too much equity, you're diluting the existing shareholders, which obviously we want to do our best for. So I think the combination is good. I think the terms are extremely competitive. A 10% interest rate on the debt with a 1% NSR capped at 250,000 ounces. I'd say that's as good as I've seen really in terms of the total cost of the debt package. Certainly for single asset junior projects in Africa, I'd say that's very competitive. In terms of the equity and the equity converts, I mean, a 30% premium on the convertible is, when you look at some of the other convertibles which have been signed by junior resource companies, again, I think the terms are very competitive. So I was very pleased to be able to agree them.
So who owns the shares? A big question, to which I don't know the answer. Who
in terms of Lionhead or
no? In terms of Cora Gold.
Currently, so yeah, sorry. I mean, our existing shareholders. There's really 4 or 5 big shareholders. So there's a couple of entities which are associated with the Quirk family. The Quirk family is a large South African mining family. They were founding shareholders of both LionOre and Mantra, which both were bought out for multi-billion dollars. So they are our largest shareholding group with around 34%. You've also got Hummingbird Resources, which has got a gold mine in Mali and West Africa. On top of that, you've also got the likes of Capital Drilling and also Lord Michael Farmer, who is the founding partner of Red Kite Mine Finance business. So for a company of our size and stage, I'd say we've got a fairly unique register of people who are all, I guess, heavily related to the mining sector in Africa and have built and helped develop projects in the past. So it's a great register, but always looking to expand it and bring in new shareholders when we can.
And why retail investors? Why are you looking to bring in some retail investors?
Well, I think not just retail. I mean, any investors. I think if retail investors are an important part of the market, and I think often sadly can be overlooked. I think it's extremely important to bring in shareholders who who buy into the projects. I think the nature of larger institutions is they tend to take up shares and placements, which is obviously fantastic, but ultimately they don't necessarily buy or sell any shares. So I think the nature of being listed, they're not necessarily that active, albeit they've got deep pockets, and whether it's $21 million or whether it's $10 million for this or that, you need to probably move outside of just retail to do larger placements in this business. But I think the retail make an important part of this business, and I think I've always been keen to engage with retail and try and bring them into companies. I mean, when I was at Hummingbird, I remember I spent my previous 10 years of my life at Hummingbird before Cora. I remember we hosted a Twitter competition, and we took out two of our retail shareholders to site on a site visit with analysts. So I think for me, it's important to engage with all shareholders and look to bring them into the story in the company.
That's a great idea. Let's hope you can do that for Cora Gold, perhaps.
Yeah, when the travel restrictions get lifted, I'm sure we'll
post-COVID.
Well. Yeah, exactly.
So what comes next in terms of news flow and project development?
Yeah, I think looking with a longer term view, obviously by the end of next year, the plan is to have completed a DFS, a Definitive Feasibility Study. Over the course of the next 18 months, initially we're focusing on resource growth, and then obviously moving into the studies themselves, engineering work and everything else. Concurrent with that work, we are currently doing some metallurgical test work on the project with hopefully news out on that in the coming months. We also kicked off our ESIA, which is your environmental and social impact assessment. It's an important cog of completing your feasibility studies and also then importantly getting the project permitted. So we've got a whole range of kind of concurrent work streams going on at the moment. So hopefully we should have plenty of news in the coming months.
Okay, you're cracking on. I like to see that. And the inferred mineral resource figures from December, the January scoping study, what did those were two big milestones. What did they show?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, before, where Cora was a year ago, it had a bunch of virgin exploration grounds, which we were doing, we were drilling and doing exploration across. And I stand here today, we've obviously got this $21 million term sheet in our hand, and we've got a very positive scoping study and maiden resource. So in short, you've got about 250,000 ounces of oxide gold, so near surface, free diggable with very good recovery gold, which has gone into a scoping study to show a project which at a $1,400 gold price will be a bit more conservative than we are now, gives you about an 84% IRR and a little over $19 million a year in free cash flow generation from open pit mining, as I said, with the free digging, sort of free milling ore type. So in a nutshell, that's what it's got. I think I touched on it earlier, but we've only drilled around 20% or so of the mineralized structures on our permit area, and that's specifically on the Sanankoro permit. The Sanankoro project itself is made up of 5 permits, so we also have neighbouring bordering permits within an easily truckable distance, which have got gold targets which we need to drill and deliver results on, which we'll hopefully be doing in the coming months as well.
Talking of term sheets, is getting to a 6 years mine life at 40 kilogram ounces, that's one of the conditions of the term sheet. Is that a hard challenge?
When you move from resources to reserves, which is obviously what you then mine, you need generally to get an excessive amount of resources, because when you move to reserves, generally, you in inverted commas lose a few ounces once you tighten things up for mining and things. So, as I said, we've only drilled under 20% of the mineralized structures, so extending the mine life we don't see as a significant issue, we hope.
Okay, what's the regulatory environment like in Mali? What kind of relationships do you have with the Mali government?
Yes, I mean, Mali's been a commercially operating gold mining jurisdiction for probably 30 years plus so far. Obviously, the likes of Randgold that was and is now Barrick, B2 Gold, Hummingbird, and others have all operated mining operations there. So in terms of the process of moving from an exploration permit to a mining permit and exploitation permit is relatively standardized and one which many companies have been through before. One of the reasons we kicked off our ESIA on the environmental side as early as we have is because we know that it's such a key important factor in today's world, just generally in terms of your environmental and social aspects of the mining. but also for the permitting side as well. It's obviously a prerequisite to get the project permitted is to obviously have your ESIA completed. So yeah, look, we've got good government relations. We feel, we've got a number of permits and projects which we've always been active and operating on. So we're certainly, we've had a good relationship and are happy with where we're at with it.
Okay. Let me ask you the dreaded COVID question. How is COVID affecting Sanankoro, and more broadly, how has it been affecting Mali?
Yeah, well, I guess at the outset, I can't imagine there's many people in the whole world who haven't been affected in one way or another by COVID. Sadly, I guess. Hopefully not. Hopefully not from an illness perspective, but obviously, sadly, many have. But obviously, from a business and economic perspective, obviously, I think it's touched probably everyone in one way or another. I think one significant advantage Cora has is that we have a fully national staff in country, and we've always operated with as few or ultimately no expat staff as we operate. As I just mentioned, Mali's had a 30-year history of commercial gold mining, so the ability to hire and employ good quality national staff to operate your company and country is definitely there. So you don't need to fly in these hugely expensive expat from all over the world on fly in, fly outs, plane tickets, hotels. They spend a third of their time on holiday. So and then now we've hit COVID, it's actually been great because the borders to Mali are closed essentially. You can't really get in or out. But we have a full team which operates there, obviously under restrictions and obviously with all the health and safety procedures, as you would expect, to make sure that we're not putting anyone at any undue harm. But it has meant that we weren't reliant on having staff fly in, fly out to manage a drill program, to run an ESIA. So for me,
has COVID slowed things down inside Mali? Permitting, getting on with the project.
Yeah, I think it definitely has slowed things down. I don't think, as I said, I think that's it's not unique for I guess Mali. I would say everybody everywhere has probably been slowed down by COVID. So yeah, we've certainly felt it a little bit. Specifically where we've been operating, managing your field camps and managing your drill campaigns whilst trying to maintain social distancing. Obviously, doing twice daily temperature checks. You probably can't operate quite as quickly with quite the number of people as you might have liked to, because you're trying to manage the fact that you've got to maintain that distance and hygiene and everything else around field camps and around drill rigs and stuff. So yeah, it's probably slowed us down a little bit, which has been frustrating. But I think when you look at the big picture, I think it's nothing. We've been relatively unaffected compared to how things could have been.
We've touched on the gold price a little bit earlier. It's currently at $1,700 an ounce. What difference does such a strong gold price make to a junior mine developer such as Cora?
Well, I think it's massive, really. And I wouldn't say it's necessarily just limited to a junior mining company. I think if you look at the sector as a whole, the average all-in sustaining cost, so essentially your operating cost, is probably somewhere between 90 and $900 and about $1,000 an ounce. So if you take that, if you look at the gold price at $1,200 and then you look at the gold price at $1,700, you can see the significant impact that's going to have on these businesses.
Your costs are fixed and you simply make more profit.
Yeah, exactly. It's as simple as that.
Okay. Final question. Why should investors back the Sanankoro Gold Project and Cora Gold? Why should I put my money into Cora Gold?
Well, I think first and foremost, we've got a fantastic project with a high cash flow from it based on our scoping study. I think this funding announced today is massively significant in that when we deliver our DFS by the end of next year, assuming we hit all the various conditions around ounces produced each year, you've got a funded project there, which I think marks us out from a lot of other junior companies. And obviously, we're in a very good gold price environment. I think there are very few people out there that I've certainly heard who think the gold price is going downwards. I think everyone's seems to be very confident that the 1,700 or so gold we're at now is a good base level and looking to grow from there. So for me, those would be the three reasons why I think people should be keen to look to invest in Cora.
And that's it. Finally, sadly, we've run out of time. Thank you very much indeed for speaking to me today, Bert. I really do appreciate it. For more interviews like this one, please do subscribe to the London South East YouTube channel. And my final thought, thank you very much for watching, and do, in this COVID world, stay safe.